that march that we had here 2 weeks ago in London, in Whitehall, that sent shivers through the spines of many of our communities well away from London, not just those in the immediate vicinity. So there's a battle for the soul of this country now as to what sort of country do we want to be, because that toxic divide, that decline with reform, it's built on a sense of grievance politics, identifying something real for sure, but relying on the problem existing in order for their politics to persist. And it's a very different choice. The choice before the electorate here at the next election is not going to be the traditional Labour versus Conservative. It's why I've said the Conservative Party is dead. Centre-right parties in many European countries have withered on the vine, and the same is happening in this country. It's a different proposition, and therefore it becomes a binary argument as to the future of our country, and it actually becomes bigger than Labour. It's about all of those that genuinely believe in the patriotism that I think is the heart of what we are as a country. So for us, it's about battling with repairing the damage that was done under the last government, which was huge, but rebuilding in a way which embraces and takes on the battle for the soul of the country, because we're going to face a very different election next time to any of the elections we fought in the United Kingdom for a very, very long time, and we need to be, that's why I think, certainly why I want this to be out as an open fight now between Labour and Reform, and I'll be majoring on this on my conference speech next week.
The march in London's Whitehall 2 weeks ago sent shivers through communities far beyond the capital. We face a battle for the soul of this country. What kind of nation do we want to be? The toxic divide pushed by Reform thrives on grievance politics, recognizing real problems but depending on their persistence to survive. The next election won't be the old Labour versus Conservative contest. The Conservative Party is finished, as center-right parties have withered across Europe. This is now a binary choice about the country's future. Bigger than Labour, rooted in genuine patriotism, our task is to repair the damage left by the last government and rebuild in a way that unites the nation. That is why I want an open, honest fight between Labour and Reform, a message I'll emphasize in my upcoming conference speech.
Number 10 it is quite chilling for a lot of, not everyone, but a lot of people.
Yeah, and he's not that popular within the Labour Party as well. There's a fair few people who think that, Andy Burnham has been a better mayor comparatively than Sadiq Khan. They look at what Sadiq Khan has had 9 years in the capital, and what's he done with that? You can think Ken Livingstone, for instance, had a single achievement in terms of the congestion charge, what he did with the underground. Boris Johnson had his the London Olympics, Boris Bikes. What exactly is Sadiq Khan's single achievement? Now, it might be ULEZ, but I think that he really has less of a sort of public standing than the comparative people had at this point in their time in London.
Yes, I mean, you could either say that he is popular enough to keep winning the election, but nobody ever puts up a very, very credible candidate against him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you look at how the Conservatives have absolutely tanked in London the past 10 years or so. He's had a couple of elections which most half-decent politicians would have won. So I think that it's very unlikely that he's genuinely going to be a contender for number 10, not least, of course, because he's the same stumbling block as Burnham, which is that how do you get back into the House of Commons if you are to replace Keir Starmer mid-term?
What is going to be interesting to see over a conference is what the feeling actually is within the Labour Party, how in tune the Prime Minister is with Labour members, because maybe he'll sail through this, but there's a real chance, isn't there? There's going to be a lot of discontent. There
certainly will be. I'll be going to Liverpool tomorrow, and I'll be interested in a number of things. One of which, of course, is sort of people on manoeuvres. Andy Burnham's generously said he's only going to do 2 or 3 events, so we'll see if he makes any kind of comments.
But he's done 2 or 3 interviews.
Absolutely.
Already.
I think he's done 4. I saw, he's done a whole media round. Obviously, anything about sort of backbenchers raiding against the bond markets, anything like that, which could put off investors or banks. So I think that there's a lot of different potential points of conflict. Now, Labour members and MPs do always profess their unity. They want to sort of pull together for the brand. So there's chances Keir Starmer could get through this, but I do think it'll be a sort of festering mood. And I think given how badly last year's conference went, it's a shame that sort of 2 years in for him, there isn't any sign of it getting better.
I don't want to feel as though I'm feeling sorry for him, but it must be incredibly demoralising to have your first party conference after a year of being in power and of having delivered his party this enormous majority. You'd think he'd have something to crow about, but I just wonder what it's going to be like when he walks on stage, because he'll know that half the party doesn't seem to like him at all anymore. An awful lot of people are losing faith in him, and there are some who are deliberately proclaiming themselves after his job.
Absolutely, and I'll be really interested if anything about sort of Gaza and the kind of Palestinian flags we saw a few years ago at Labour conference. That's obviously a big fault line within the party as well. And so Keir Starmer is not a particularly brilliant platform speaker, but wonders whether he can really rouse the room, even if he's giving us sort of greatest hits of the past 14 months or so.
The idea of Sadiq Khan as a future prime minister unsettles many, even within Labour. Critics say his 9 years as London mayor lack a defining achievement. Ken Livingstone introduced the congestion charge. Boris Johnson had the Olympics and Boris bikes. Khan Zuleh's policy stands out, but his public stature is weaker than his predecessors. Though he keeps winning elections, it's often because no strong opponent has challenged him while the Conservatives have collapsed in London. Like Andy Burnham, he also faces the hurdle of re-entering Parliament to succeed Keir Starmer mid-term. The Labour conference will test how in touch Starmer is with his party. Discontent simmers beneath outward unity, and figures like Burnham are already active in the media. Past tensions over issues like Gaza may resurface. 2 years into his leadership and after a landslide win, Starmer should be celebrating. Instead, he faces a restless party, waning support, and rivals eyeing his position. So don't go anywhere. Hit that subscribe button. Smash the like if you haven't already, and if you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep fighting, and never let them silence you.
Obviously, the Prime Minister going into this conference wanting to unify the party as best he can. It seems the people he can't trust are the ones who are mayors of quite pretty big areas.
Good morning, good to be with you. We have been in government for 14 months. I think you started the package by referencing that, and we came into government off the back of a long period of time where the country went through a number of political shocks, whether that's austerity, whether it's the unplanned chaotic Brexit, or whether it was the Liz Truss mini-budget. That has left people still feeling very frustrated, very angry with problems and wanting to see things fixed. And we are starting to go through that process of fixing some really important things, making some big decisions as a government to get the country back on its feet and rising. That's not a straightforward or clean process. There's things about that make it really difficult. People can see, international news, the kind of background to what's going on in the economy is quite challenging, but we are making steady progress. And as we get closer to that election, people will start to see big changes that we've made, and there'll be a proper choice about whether we throw the progress that we're making to the wall, the progress that we're making to change the state, to modernise it with digital ID, the changes that we're making to the NHS to create millions of extra appointments, or whether we go with the problem exploiters in reform rather than the problem solvers in Labour.
Yeah, but are you listening to the people? I mean, you saw the results of this mega poll. You're falling way behind in the popularity stakes. The people don't believe half of what you promise, and there doesn't seem to be any progress in 14 months of government.
Well, I take your point about public mood. What's going on in politics at the moment, Reform are really effective at holding up a mirror to problems and shouting at them and saying this is really bad, and saying problem, problem, problem. We're interested in actually solving those problems. Polls right now are asking people how they're feeling about things. That's not the same as a general election where it's a really clear choice between who you want to run the country. And I do challenge you on the fact that we've not made progress in 14 months. We've made big progress, 5 million extra NHS appointments. I'm announcing this morning that we're extending the rollout of free breakfast clubs to another 2,000 schools. That's going to help another 500,000 pupils. We've got 3 trade deals. We're completely changing our planning system to get the country building again. We made a big decision on digital ID to modernise the state. These are big decisions that have, they've got opponents, that's fine, but we're in government to shake things up, to change the country, get it back on its feet and working again. That's a difficult, disruptive process, but that is why we're in this business of being in government. We're not happy with the status quo, we want it to change, and we're interested in solving those problems.
It's one thing to be